And question answer, asker. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Chandra Baba Girivardhari Gopi Chandra Baba Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Praja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Praja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 18, text number 23. Chapter is called King Yayati Regains His Youth. We'll chant the Sanskrit. Yayatir anabhipretam Jaivo pavritam atmanaha Manastu tad gatan bhutva Prati jagrahatan vachaha Yayatir anavipretam Daivopavitam Atmanaha Manastu Tadvitam Bhutva Pati Jagraha Tadvachaha Yayatir anavipretam Daivopavitam Atmanaha Manastu Tadvitam Bhutva Pati Jagraha Tadvachaha Yayatir anavipretam Yayatir anavi Nastu Targatan Bhutva Prati Jagraha Tadvachaha Yayatir anavipretam Daivopavitam Atmanaha Manastu Tadgatam Bhutva Pati Jagraha Tadvachaha Yayatir anavipretam Daivopavitam Atmanaha Manastu Tadgatam Bhutva Pratigraha Tadvachaha Pratigraha Tadvachaha. Word for word synonyms. Yayati, King Yayati. Anavipretam, not liked. Daivam upavitam, brought about by providential arrangements. Atmanaha, his personal interest. Manaha, mind. To, however, Tatkatam, being attracted to her. Bhutva, of such intelligence. Pratijagraha, accepted. Tatvachaha, the words of Devayani. Sukadeva Goswami continued, because such a marriage is not sanctioned by regular scriptures, King Yayati did not like it. But because it was arranged by providence, and because he was attracted to Devayani's beauty, he accepted her request. Srila Prabhupada's purport. According to the Vedic system, the parents would consider the horoscopes of the boy and girl who were to be married. If according to astrological calculations, the boy and girl were compatible in every respect, the match was called Yotaka, and the marriage would be accepted. Even 50 years ago, this system was current in Hindu society. And 50 years ago means 50 years ago from when Srila Prabhupada wrote this, so that's maybe 100 years ago now. Regardless of the affluence of the boy or the personal beauty of the girl, without this astrological compatibility, the marriage would not take place. A person is born in one of three categories, known as Devagana, Manushya-gana, and Rakshasa-gana. In different parts of the universe, there are demigods and demons, and in human society also. Some people resemble demigods, whereas others resemble demons. If according to astrological calculations, there was a conflict between a godly and a demoniac nature, the marriage would not take place. Similarly, there were calculations of pratiloma and anuloma. The central idea is that if the boy and girl were on an equal level, the marriage would be happy, whereas inequality would lead to unhappiness. Because care is no longer taken in marriage, we now find many divorces. Indeed, divorce has now become a common affair, although formerly one's marriage would continue lifelong, and the affection between a husband and wife was so great that the wife would voluntarily die when her husband died, or would remain a faithful widow throughout her entire life. Now, of course, this is no longer possible for human society. Human society has fallen to the level of animal society. Marriage now takes place simply by agreement. Dampatye Ruchir Hetu, in the Srimad-bhagavatam 12th Canto, 2nd chapter, 3rd verse. The word Abhiruchi means agreement. If the boy and girl simply agree to marry, the marriage takes place. But when the Vedic system is not rigidly observed, marriage frequently ends in divorce. Oh my God, it's Chakshur militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, King Yayati has agreed to accept Devyani as his wife. King Yayati, at this point, Srimad-bhagavatam, King Yayati has agreed to accept Devyani as his wife. Although in Vedic culture, and this was Vedic culture at that time, the system was that the arrangements for marriage were made by the parents ahead of time, when the children were young. And it was made early in their, sometimes the children were, well, they were children, they were young. But still the arrangements were being already made. So one might, in modern times, one might wonder, how do you make arrangements between a boy and a girl when they're just children? Arrangements for marriage when they're just children. But that was the system was that they would have an expert astrologer determine their nature and ultimately the possible compatibility between the two. And through astrology, if you're expert in it, through astrology you can determine, even when someone is young, even when someone is just born, you can determine this person will have a divine nature, this person will have a demonic nature, and many tendencies in their life later on. So Srila Prabhupada was explaining here that the central concern in deciding about marriage partners, the central concern was to see that they both had similar nature, that they're compatible. So someone had their nature, whether it had been manifest so much at that point, early in life, if one's nature was divine, then they should be ultimately married to someone who has the similar divine nature. And if someone's nature was more demoniac, they also should be married, but they should be married to someone who also has similar demoniac tendency. And the reason for this was that later on in life, if they were married, these two personalities were married, if one has divine nature and the other has demoniac nature, then they would be very incompatible and they would be not be happy together. And of course, if a man and woman are living together, and husband and wife, if they are very unhappy together, then the end result is usually divorce. But in Vedic culture, divorce was not, it didn't exist. There's no such thing as divorce. And so therefore they were very, very careful in making arrangements that this man and this woman should be very compatible, and so that the marriage could last. So, because if it doesn't last, they may separate. But the tendency is the man wants a woman, and the woman wants a man. So if they actually somehow that marriage got broken, then the woman's looking for somebody else, and then there's illicit activities, and the same thing on the man's side, and the whole society becomes great chaos. In Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna actually makes that argument. His argument is one of many arguments were that if we fight this war and we kill so many elders, so many elder men, the women were not involved, then who will protect the women? And he said if the elders in the family die, not only will so many women be left without husbands, but the elders also would be, because they're not there in the family unit anymore, then they were not making sure that certain religious principles were being followed.
Таким образом, если будет происходить, то в результате много принципов, не просто христианских.
So Arjuna's arguments were actually very good. Because he warned that if so many men die, then the women will be unprotected. Unprotected women result in, he said, the term was Varna Sankara, or unwanted progeny.
Он прекрасно говорил о том, что если такое произойдет, то в результате женщины смешиваются с кем угодно, появится главный санкция, то есть нежелательно.
And so we see in modern times, this is exactly what it is. The whole population practically is Varna Sankara. And then, of course, Srila Prabhupada points out that in modern times, unlike Vedic times, in modern times, divorce is quite common. It's quite common. And he says, actually he's talking about it now, which is actually true. It says marriage now takes place simply by agreement. Just simply by agreement means one man, one woman decide, okay, we're married, so we'll live together for some time, and when we and if it doesn't work out, you go to somebody else, I go to someone else, and we continue our lives in that way. But no religious principle, no religious ceremony. Modern times, I think it's referred to as common law marriage. Common law marriage means you just agree to live together. Okay, this is husband and wife, but then there's incompatibility later on. And we just go somewhere else. I'm not attached. I go to somebody else. And so Srila Prabhupada says in this, Srimad-bhagavatam says in the 12th Canto, there's a chapter about the symptoms of the age of Kali, or the upcoming symptoms of the age of Kali. And one of those symptoms or qualities that is already developing, but it'll be even much worse by the end of the age of Kali, is just exactly this point. Marriage, there's no ceremony, there's no religious principle. It's simply, we'll live together, we'll agree to live together, and with that there's nothing religious about it.
И там как раз описывается, что вот эта вот ситуация, которая происходит в принципах, хотели совсем живут,
And of course, since the tendency is we operate in Kali Yuga and especially in Kali Yuga, we run our lives basically on basically the pushings of the mind and the senses, not on the basis of good intelligence. So any activity, any relationship, anything in our day-to-day life is generally based on, if it feels good, do it. And so marriage, and by that standard, is based on maybe he sees that she's beautiful, she sees that he's got some money, or something like that, and therefore, this could work. I like him because he's rich, or I like her because she's very pretty, like I hear in the story. Yayati was a beautiful woman, and of course King Yayati was the king, so he probably had money. He was the king. Even though he was a Kshatriya and she was from Brahmana family. So anyway, so if the relationship is based on, if it feels good, do it, and when something else feels good, or when this doesn't feel good anymore, then it stops. There's no commitment. And of course, Srila Prabhupada was very, through the beginning years, mostly the first persons who joined were from hippie background. Not all, but many were. Yeah? Early in the movement, some of the first devotees that joined ISKCON, the very first ones, many of them were hippies, had been hippies. So of course it was very normal in that kind of society, hippie society, that boys and girls just lived together, and it was pretty loose relationships. So that was not favorable if someone wants to practice spiritual life. So the very first groups of devotees, the very groups of people who taking up the path of Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada was arranging. Okay, you marry her, like that. He said you cannot live together. Uh, uh, you cannot just live together and not be married. So follow the religious principle, perform the marriage, and live together peacefully.
И когда первые пришли, Прабхупада увидел, что такое положение дел, что если хочет, принцип определил, что собрал достаточное количество проблематок, то Прабхупада начал жить так, то есть прием жены, лидер,
And in the beginning, earlier years of the movement, everyone who got married, pretty much, most everyone who got married, directly with the fire sacrifice, the Vedic fire sacrifice.
И когда все эти научили, то они хотели жениться,
But unfortunately, in many cases, devotees who were getting many who got married during Srila Prabhupada's physical presence were saying, "Oh, I don't like her anymore," or "I don't like him anymore. We want a divorce. We want to separate now." Srila Prabhupada did not. He did not like that.
И тем не менее все равно была ситуация, когда первым утром и все равно приходило время, что надо было нравится, он был
Of course, if Srila Prabhupada knew very well that if those particular couples, if they separated, they're each going to look for another partner somewhere, which means, and sometimes it would be many, one after another over time. So Srila Prabhupada knew that was spoiled spiritual life.
И Прабхупада видел, что такая жизнь, она будет потрачена зря, полностью, потому что люди светились, искали следующего,
So at one point, Srila Prabhupada got a little disgusted with the results of these devotee marriages, and he said, okay, this he didn't like that it was being so whimsical. So he said, first you get married, you do your legal marriage, your social legal. I mean, what do you call it? The legal marriage outside. Live together for a year or two. See if you could stay together peacefully, and then you'll do the fire sacrifice after that. That was he required that. Wait a year or 2 years and see if you're still together.
И когда Прабхупада увидел, что тенденция все равно сохраняется, но он ввел новые правила, сказал, что если вы хотите действия, то жениться, вам нужно заключить официальный брак, пожить год-два, и если вы не разойдетесь, то будет спокойно, то потом
Anyway, that was what Srila Prabhupada did. He just he expected us. He didn't say, okay, you're all victims of Kali Yuga, so you can't improve any. No, he said, we have an opportunity. We're chanting Hare Krishna. We have knowledge about what we should and shouldn't do, and we have human bodies. So with all that, if we have the desire, then we can give up bad habits and control our senses and so many things. We can do these things and progress.
Ну, поскольку сейчас юга, все равно они могут просто, однако, нужно стараться все равно максимально следовать правилам,
Practically speaking, look at the list of sanskaras. Basically, everything starts with, well, not everything, but most of them start with marriage. The marriage, and the children, and then sanskaras for the children, going to school, and so many things are there. It all starts with the marriage.
Опять схема такова, что большинство людей схема такова, что начинается происходит дружба, происходит школу, развиваются,
and so if the marriage is not strong, that relationship is not strong, and Krishna consciousness is not strong, there's so many problems will come about in society, including within our society, ISKCON.
И поскольку
if our vows for marriage, our vows for Krishna conscious activities, if they are not strong, then so many problems will come about even within ISKCON.
Если вот это вот объекты слабые, если практика слабая, если следование правильно слабое, то огромное количество проблем происходит. И не только в обществе, но также и у нас.
Anyway, there's a number of points that we could continue making in this purport, but time. So we will stop here. Any questions or comments? Yes.
We read that young people have different natures, for example.
Yes.
Demonic
One is divine, the other is demonic.
one is divine, another is demonic.
Demonic.
Demonic. They were not allowed to marry.
Yeah, the arrangement for marriage was not made.
But how the young people accept the decision of their parents, because if they like one another, it's very difficult to understand by reason that he is not useful for our
Yes.
life.
How do they determine that, or how do they? What's the question exactly?
The question is how they accept the decision of their own.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was just part of the Vedic culture. So And these arrangements were made when the children, I'm not sure how old they were, but they were young. So they were not looking for, girls were not looking for boys at that time. Boys were not looking for girls. And astrologically, a good astrologer could say this person, because of the date, time, and place, and so on, that they were born. This is their nature. This is their nature, and this is so. And basically, in the Vedic culture, it tended to work good. It tended to work. These compatibility matches.
То есть вопрос был, что если не подходила природа одного к другому, то ее не разрешать это место. А как это воспринимать? Как это насилие, что не нравится, что условно, что нас
Does that answer the question? Any other questions? Okay, so we'll end for now. So tomorrow's Friday, so we'll be, I'm sure somebody will be giving class tomorrow. We'll see. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad-bhagavatam ki jai.